let's see if we can do this. Hello and welcome to the Ellen Made Book Club. Today I have a double tag video for you. It's been a while since I did any tags, and this was not what I was going to film today, but here we are. And my boyfriend is on his way home and I want to be done with this before then, and so we'll see if I can even get this done. So let's just get started. I was tagged by Melinda at A Web of Stories to do the What's Next tag, which is created by Robert G. Reader of Books. And Reney at Beyond Books tagged me to do the Are TBRs Fun or Not tag, which was created by Candy at The Great Literary Rabbit Hole, which is interesting because that's the name of the book that I'm reading at the moment. Never mind. I was also tagged by Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading and Daniela at Uncommon Reader. And Pat at Book Chat with Pat also did a double feature of this tag in her video, and she tagged me so I could do either one, but I guess I'm doing both, and so here we are. So starting with the What's Next tag, that has 4 questions, and the first one is your decision for choosing your next book based on random chance, or is there method to your madness? There's definitely madness, but I think there's method too, although I'm not really sure what that is at the moment. I've had a TBR jar for about a year and, picking prompts out of that. And then this year I also started making prompts based off of the reading challenges that I'm doing this year. So there's been a little bit of that. And then now in June, I decided to not do the TBR jar and just make the decision myself for once. And pick some books that I have been wanting to read and that I wanted to read for the month of June. And so, yeah, and I'm not really sure what I'm going to do for July. So it varies, but there is both method and madness, I guess, and some randomness. And yeah, a little bit of everything. Do your criteria for choosing fiction differ from how you choose nonfiction? Yes, I think, well, maybe not criteria, but I think the biggest difference is that I don't read as much nonfiction as I do fiction. And so that in itself, creates kind of different criteria, because when I do read nonfiction, I usually prefer some kind of narrative style. I don't really want to read something that feels too academic or too just straight up facts. I want some kind of narrative, either like a memoir or a narrative nonfiction. I haven't read a lot, but my example is The Wager by David Grann, which was very much like a story, and we followed along on an adventure. And I've read a couple of memoirs that I have enjoyed, like Sociopath by Patrick Gagney and The Chain by Chimène Suleiman. And I also read and enjoyed Disability Visibility, edited by Alice Wong, but that's also like little mini memoirs almost, like it's a personal experiences and little stories in that anthology from a lot of different people, so that worked very well for me as well. I'm getting very deep into nonfiction now. These are not necessarily criteria, but I think that narration is a criteria for nonfiction. So that makes it different from fiction, because in fiction there already is narration, if that makes sense. Or that is already a form of narrative. And for nonfiction, I think I'm more intentional about it providing me with some value. And I think that's pretty much the same for everyone reading nonfiction. But I guess I wouldn't just read a random book about fish or something. I want it to be about a topic that is relevant to me and interesting to me, like social issues and things like that. Whereas with fiction, I could be a little bit more open, and those social issues are definitely part of my fiction reading as well, but it's not a criteria for all of the fiction that I read. And sometimes it's even the opposite with fiction, that I don't want to read about certain social issues, or that it's too much of the same issue in too many books. And so that just gets a bit overwhelming, and I want my fiction to be entertaining as well, and it's not always relaxing to read about social issues. So for my nonfiction, I want some value out of it, and for my fiction, I sometimes want value but also entertainment. And if I can get some entertainment from my nonfiction as well, that's preferable because that makes me read nonfiction. So I don't know. Moving on to question number 3, which is, do other people influence your next choice? Sometimes. I did have a book club on my channel where everyone could vote on, which book we were going to read for the book club. And so in that sense, people had a very direct influence on what I was reading. I also, watch a lot of booktube. And so through that, I see people talking about books, and I see, books that sound interesting to me, and I hear what they have to say and if they liked it or didn't like it. So I get a lot of recommendations that way. And I also think I maybe put too much value at the moment on Goodreads ratings and things. I prefer to read something that has a 4 or above. I just feel like that's more worth my time sometimes. But I'm also aware of the fact that some of the books that I've given 5 stars are, below a 4 on Goodreads. So it doesn't necessarily mean anything, and it doesn't necessarily align with whether or not I will enjoy the book. So I'm trying not to put so much weight on that. But that is something that influences my decisions sometimes. And then sometimes I do buddy reads or read something for a booktube event and things like that. And so that's also another way that people influence my next choice of a book to read. Number 4, aside from other people, what other influences might impact your choice? I think that all influence is from other people in one way or another. Either, because they voted on Goodreads, or they were judges in a prize, or they had a channel on booktube, or they left a comment saying good or bad things about a book. So I'm not really sure what other influences might impact my choice. I mean, availability and price of a book can influence whether or not I buy it, but that's not really an influence. Maybe other people. What other influences? I mean, I influence my choice myself as well, and my life in general, and my mood and what I feel like reading. So yeah, I guess my mood and my life circumstances. Yeah. I don't know how to answer that question. So moving on to the next tag, which is the Are TBRs Fun or Not tag. And the first question is, how many books are currently or normally on your TBR? I have my trusty little notebook here. And so for this month, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 books on my TBR, or rather pile of possibilities. I have 2 books from the library. I have 4 books, I think, that are on audiobook that are, available to me anytime. And then I have a bunch of physical books from my shelves that I have been meaning to get to for a long time. I don't usually have 12 books on my TBR, and if I have 12 books, it's a pile of possibilities and not a TBR, because I can't read 12 books in 1 month. I'm sure I could, but it hasn't happened yet. So I would say that normally I have about 6 books maybe. I think I read anywhere from 4 to 7 books in a month. Last year I read 51 books, so I was just one shy of 1 book per week. So on average, I guess 4 to 5 books a month. But that's not necessarily what my TBR is. So it varies. Sometimes I try to pick less books so that I have more room for mood reading. And sometimes I pick more books so that I have more options to choose from. And I don't know. I'm not very good at TBRs. I'm still trying to figure it out. So that's where I'm at the moment. And that will hopefully change. How do you choose TBR books? And have you ever gamified your TBR with prompt jars TBR games? Yes, I have. I started last year with this prompt jar, which is filled with prompts in different colors, in different categories. Things like color of the cover, genre, element on the cover, like a bus or a tree or something, stuff like that. And then I have this prompt jar, which is new for this year, which also has a bunch of different colors in it. But these are for the different reading challenges that I'm doing this year. And I guess we're getting into that in the next question, which is, do you have reading areas of focus to choose books for? If yes, how many? I think I have too many areas to call any of them a focus. It's more like I'm scattered across all of the things, which is really fun sometimes. And I want to do many things, and sometimes it's a bit overwhelming and yeah, hard to focus. So I have my own diversity book bingo that I'm doing this year, which is a bingo board with the different prompts, and then the point is to read books with as much representation as possible from, Indigenous peoples or minorities or LGBTQIA+, or disability or neurodivergence. And then also you need to read books from all of the continents throughout the year. So that's one. And then I have the 2 buzzword challenges by Kayla at Books and Lala. So one is for the title and one is for the cover. So that's 12 prompts. And then I'm doing the Read Good challenge by Ben at Ben Reads Good. And then I'm doing the Savage prompts by Simon at Savage Reads and Louise at Louise Savage Muses. And then I'm doing the Climathon by Tasman at Tasme2, and the Classic 6 challenge by Sui at Sui's Book Band. So I have those 7 challenges that I'm participating in that go throughout the year. And then I also have a list for myself with 25 books that I would like to read in 2025. So that's 8, I guess. And then I'm participating in different booktube events. So this month, for example, there's the historical fiction readathon, and it's also Pride Month. And so I want to support that and read books with that kind of theme or representation. So yeah, and then I also want to just read whatever I feel like in the moment. It's a little bit all over the place. Number 4, does a TBR help you focus? Yes and no. I am very scattered across all of these challenges, as I just said. So a TBR helps me to narrow down my choices, or a pile of possibilities, helps me to not have 100 books to choose from, and then all of the library books, and then all of the audiobooks, endless amounts. And I also plan a lot for my challenges, or I pick out options ahead of time so that I have something picked out, and I don't have to scramble to find something every month. And sometimes I pick other things anyway because I'm more in the mood to read that, or whatever. What was the question? Does the TBR help you focus? To a certain extent. Number 5, do you suffer from the book noise of a TBR? Yes, I think so. Even though I have narrowed down my choices, I'm still usually excited for the books that I have picked out for my TBR. Sometimes I'm not, and then I feel like that book over there is kind of a pressure for me to read. Or if I'm excited about it, I just want to read them all at once and I don't know where to start. So yeah, I would say I suffer from the book noise, and not just from the TBR itself. If I have 10 books picked out, I might still also be distracted by the endless amount of other books that I also want to read. I suffer. Do you give your TBR a time limit, and does a TBR make you stress about reading quick enough? Yes, sometimes I get stressed about not reading quick enough, or it's not really that I don't read quick enough, but that I don't spend enough time reading the books that I picked out, because I genuinely want to read them. But then I also want to do other things, and I want to film videos, and I want to edit videos, and that takes a lot of time, or I spend a lot of time doing that. I watch booktube videos and watch Netflix or whatever. So that's, I also work and things like that, but that's the time that I could have spent reading books. And yeah, sometimes I just get distracted with other things, or am in the mood to watch something instead of read something, and that's fine too. But yeah, sometimes that stresses me out, and I feel like I should be reading more, or I want to be reading more, and I just don't sometimes. I'm feeling stressed right now. Okay. Do you give your TBR a time limit? I usually plan my TBR for a month, but sometimes I carry books over to the next month, and sometimes I scrap them if I didn't get to them. Depends on how much I want to read them in the moment. I think I have some kind of unconscious limit of 3 months. If a TBR has been on my if a book has been on my TBR for 3 months, for 3 TBRs in a row, and I still didn't read it, then it's time to just pick it off regardless and just leave it be for a while. because if I don't, it just becomes another thing to stress about. Do you have rebellion syndrome, not wanting to read a book because you put it on your TBR and now you feel like you have to read it? Yes. Which is very annoying because I love putting together TBRs. I love playing my TBR jar game thing, and I want to play all the TBR games, and I love picking out the books for the challenges, and I just love the planning aspect of picking out books to read. And I just see all these books and I really want to read them. They all sound amazing. But then when it's on my TBR and it's on my to-do list for the month, that can definitely make me not want to do it because I'm not very good at being told what to do. So even if it is me, myself, and I telling me what to do, no, I'm not going to do it. But I still also know that I do want to read the book, so I just have to work around that rebellion in my head and just like remind myself that you actually picked this book and you want to read it. Even if you didn't pick it for the TBR, you at some point chose it because you bought it, or you borrowed it from the library, or you picked it for a challenge. And so at some point you did genuinely want to read it. So find your way back to that in your brain and things will be fine. And also, if I'm not in the mood to read a certain book, that's fine too. Like, all of the pressure is just self-inflicted, and yeah, that's just something in my brain that I want to get rid of. Do you keep books on your TBR until they are read, or swap the TBR around regularly? I feel like that is similar to the question we had before with the time limit and things. I do carry books over sometimes, but I don't always keep them on my TBR until they're read, because that's just, no, it varies, is the short answer. Have you ever killed a book by having it on your TBR too long? Any guesses? I wouldn't say I've killed the book, but I have killed my joy and my sense of excitement for reading the book over a certain period of time. So there will be books that I really feel like I want to read and that I should read and that I feel are important to read. And that pressure and that like holding on so tightly to them and like wanting to read them so bad over a few months, like that can definitely make me not want to read it anymore, because it just feels like a chore and it feels like something that I should be doing, and that's just not fun anymore. But I also find okay. And so then I have to put them aside for a few months, and then my joy and excitement will come back. So I'm still excited to read the book, like in theory, but I just need to push it back a few months until I'm excited about reading them again, and until they don't feel like a chore. Do you have a tick list for your TBR to tick off books as you read them? I would say all of the reading challenges are kind of a tick list, checking off the prompts and keeping track of the books that I read for those. But I do also have a monthly spread in my notebook for each month, and it's very super basic. It's not very fun to look at all. But I do have a checklist for the month with a little box to tick. It doesn't really make me feel like I have to read all these books. So this is not the part of it that's stressing me out. And particularly in this month, I know that this is just a pile of possibilities. I am under no illusion that I will read all these 12 books, even though in my head I want to, and I always think that that's possible. But I'm also okay with just moving a book to the next month. But yeah, it's just a way for me to keep track of what I even picked for my TBR, because I don't want to have to go and watch my video to know what books I picked. Like the physical books I can keep track of in a pile somewhere, but then I also have audiobooks, and those are a bit more tricky to stash somewhere. I can keep a list in my audiobook app, but it's just not as visible as a list. So that's why I like to have that. And I can also note the dates that I have to return a library book, for instance, or what date I finished each book and things like that. So yeah, I just like keeping track. It's not something that puts more pressure on it for me. I just feel like that's a fun thing to do. I like ticking off things and feeling accomplished. So I wouldn't want just the pressure. I also want the list so that I can also get the satisfaction of ticking something off. What one change do you think would help your TBR be more fun? I have been thinking about this for a bit because I feel like the prompts are fun, but then sometimes you'll get a prompt that isn't necessarily something that makes you excited, or it's very narrow kind of prompt, like, pick a book with a car on it or something, and, you only have so many options and you might not want to read any of those. And so that can give you books that you're not necessarily excited about. So I've been thinking about just making more of a prepared list of prompts that I use. And those could be genre. So maybe like I have one nonfiction book every month as an option, or I have one, fantasy, or one thriller, or one whatever, just to have those as options throughout the month. And then if I want to read 3 thrillers, I can, but like just to have one picked out for, if I'm in the mood for a thriller, I have one picked out for that. Or it could be like, the good prompts that you could get in the TBR jar, like a 5-star prediction, or maybe like continuing a series, or I don't know, a book you think will make you happy, or like a weird book, or like whatever, For me, a weird book is usually something that I get excited about. So yeah, I think maybe like a set list of prompts would be beneficial to me, and like maybe some of them could be gamified as well, like, a color wheel or something. And then I also feel like I need to mood read a little bit more, but I also think it's so fun to pick the TBR. So I don't know, I'm torn. I already feel like doing the TBR is a lot of fun, but I don't always find the reading the TBR part of it as fun as it should be. So yeah, maybe I just need to pick a set list of prompts and use that as a guide to help me pick TBRs that I will be guaranteed to be excited about, even as the month goes by. I also think it's really fun to try the first chapter of books, either for a video or just for myself. Either it makes me clearer on which books I want to prioritize, or it gets me excited about all of them because all of them seem good. And so that just, gives me more motivation to pick the books up, and like it's more of a reminder of like, this is what you're gonna get. And so yeah, I think that makes the TBR more fun as well. So final conclusion, are TBRs fun or not? I have mixed feelings about TBRs, and I don't think that I will ever get rid of the book noise and the stress and all of that. No matter how I do it, even if I mood read, I still want to read all of the books all at once. So I think that, thinking of it as a pile of possibilities is helpful. I think using games and like little rewards, like ticking off a list, makes it more fun. But I think that the most important thing is to be mindful of choosing books that are exciting right now. And they might be exciting because they are part of a booktube event or a buddy read or just something that I'm in the mood for. So that might be from different, sources. But I think that like having a TBR completely based on random choice is not something that works very well for me, because it just makes it a list of books that I didn't choose, and so then it feels imposed upon me, and yeah, not an active choice on my part. So I'm a lot more excited about the books that I have picked out for June, that I chose myself. And yeah, I have a lot to choose from, so yeah. A little bit of game and a little bit of random, but like make it a curated game. I think that would be the best for me, and also a lot of choosing the books myself. Those were all of the questions. I think this was a lot of fun, and yeah, if I tagged you in the description, feel free to choose either one of these tags or do both, or a double tag, or separately, or however you want to do it. And if you don't have a channel, you can always contribute to the conversation in the comments and answer the questions there, or just let us know what you think of TBRs in general. And yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. If I have 2 options, I'm more likely to pick the one up. Pick up the one with a higher score, or like the higher rating.